They thought this was the safest family camping trip they'll ever take, until a stranger stepped out of a cave and spoke directly to their children.
What happened? Are you okay?
Oh God, are you hurt? We were so worried.
Deep underground, the flashlight revealed something no human should ever look like, and it wasn't supposed to be living there. Even after the cave was searched and the middle-aged Hispanic male park ranger arrived, one terrifying question remained. Where did the young East Asian man go?
Round 15 years ago, my longtime friend Hal and I decided it would be a great idea to take our families on a camping trip out to the Makokita Caves. Hal and I had known each other since childhood, and because we both grew up around the Makokita area, we had visited the state park countless times when we were kids. We were extremely familiar with the place. Makokita is known for having more caves than anywhere else in Iowa, and many of them are interconnected through narrow tunnels and larger underground passageways. Because of how unique and fascinating the caves are, the park has become a major tourist attraction, especially for people interested in natural landmarks and geology. Depending on the season, the western side of Makokita can become fairly crowded. The public caves are pretty much exactly what you'd expect park rangers leading groups of tourists along wooden walkways while explaining the difference between stalagmites and stalactites. Occasionally, certain caves are closed off when they're deemed structurally unsafe. However, Hal and I assumed that the smaller, lesser-known caves near the campsites would be safe enough for our kids to explore. We thought it would be a fun way for them to play, while also learning a bit about the local environment and history. What we didn't realize during the drive out, there was that planning that camping trip would turn out to be one of the worst decisions we had ever made. We arrived in early fall, just as the leaves were beginning to change color. Though the lingering warmth of late summer still hung in the air, we selected a spacious campsite near several smaller caves, unpacked our gear, and enjoyed lunch from picnic baskets our wives had prepared. After eating, we took the kids on a short walk through the area, explaining some basic outdoor safety rules. Don't leave food lying around. Stay where you are if you get lost. Things like that. Once we returned to camp, everything felt perfect. It had been an incredible day. Later that night, after the kids had gone to sleep, the adults sat around the campfire, relaxing and enjoying a few wine coolers. The next morning, Hal and I woke up early and soaked in the familiar feeling of camping with smoke drifting through the air, fresh coffee brewing, and bacon sizzling in a pan. It was a combination of smells that instantly brought back memories from our childhood. Honestly, I still believe there's nothing better. If you had asked me that morning how the trip was going to turn out, I would have told you with confidence that we were heading toward another perfect day. Within just a few hours, everything fell apart. Our kids, boys and girls between the ages of 7 and 10, had been getting along great and playing together without any issues. In the early afternoon, they asked if they could go play near one of the nearby caves. Hal and I had checked it out earlier that morning. It had a wide opening and a narrow tunnel that disappeared into darkness at the back. We told the kids they could play near the entrance as long as they stayed outside and didn't go into the tunnel. They agreed, and off they went. Less than 30 minutes later, we heard a piercing scream from one of the girls. We immediately took off, running through the trees toward the caves. Before we even reached the area, we saw the kids sprinting toward us in absolute terror. Some were crying, others were frozen with fear, but they all told the same story. They said they had been playing exactly where we told them to, outside the cave, when a man suddenly began creeping out of the cave entrance. They knew they weren't supposed to talk to strangers, and something about the man terrified them instantly. My daughter said they all froze for a moment, watching as the man stepped closer. He asked if they wanted a free tour of his cave. When they refused, he claimed that he was friends with their parents, meaning us, and that he had been asked to watch them. The kids weren't stupid. One of them said they didn't believe him. That's when the man chased them. At that moment, I had 100 questions racing through my mind, but neither Hal nor I stopped to ask them. The only thing that mattered was figuring out where that man had gone after he chased our kids. The children couldn't tell us. They didn't know. My immediate fear was that he was still nearby, maybe hiding, maybe waiting for another chance, acting purely on instinct. Hal and I turned and charged straight toward the cave. Hal had always been faster than me. Back in high school, he ran track, and if he'd been a bit bigger like I was, he probably could have played football too. That day, he tore through the trees at full speed, quickly pulling ahead of me. By the time we reached the clearing near the cave entrance, Hal was already about 20 feet in front. I heard him shout, "I see him." Then, somehow, he seemed to find another burst of speed for the last stretch. I still hadn't seen the man myself, I was too far behind, but just knowing the guy was still there sent my adrenaline through the roof. My blood was boiling, and I pushed myself as hard as I could to catch up Dot as Hal burst through the tree line. He yelled again. "He's in the cave." I assumed Hal would stop at the entrance and block it until the police arrived. That would have made the most sense. Instead, he ran straight inside after the man. I shouted for him to stop, to wait for me, but he didn't slow down at the time. I thought he was out of his mind, charging into a dark cave armed with nothing but the flashlight. On his phone, I stayed at the cave entrance, yearning for Hal to come back. In my mind, we had the guy trapped. There was nowhere else for him to go. But a full minute passed, and Hal didn't reappear. That's when panic really started to set in. I began to think that I might have no choice but to follow him inside. Just as I stepped forward, Hal suddenly emerged from the darkness. He looked completely shaken. His face was pale, his breathing uneven, and his eyes had that distant and focused look of someone who'd just experienced something they weren't prepared for. I asked him what happened and whether he caught the guy. Hal said the man got away, but instead of stopping near me, he walked straight past, heading toward the trees. I followed him, pressing him for details, asking if he at least got a good look at the guy. That's when I noticed his hands trembling. He stopped abruptly and placed both hands on top of his head, the way people do when they're trying to process something horrible or life-altering. The body language alone told me everything was wrong. The expression on Hal's face reminded me of him when we were kids, smaller, scared, and sure. After a long pause, he looked at me and said quietly, "I had him. I really had him." He kept repeating it like he couldn't believe it himself. I had him, and I let him go. It was clear he was struggling to explain what had happened, either because he didn't know how to put it into words or because he didn't fully understand it himself. I finally snapped and told him to explain, for God's sake, and eventually he did.